Each of us, each of you, can struggle with a sense of value. We all want to be valued. It, I'm sure, is hard for you to hold on to tightly, but you are precious. Each of us is. There's a sparkle in you that's unique, which you're trying to discover, which you're in fact creating.
I think, like a lot of high school relationships, there were a lot of ups and downs with Lauren and Nate. And I think that initially, and if we're talking about initially, like when they first met or started talking to each other, yeah, it was super positive. She was really excited by Nate, and he was very cute, and we loved all of his friends, and they got along well, obviously, which is why they started dating in the first place.
They started dating, and it seemed pretty normal at first. No red flags, nothing crazy out of the world. It seemed like, a normal high school relationship.
They seemed happy, like initially at the beginning of the relationship for sure. I don't think anyone was like necessarily concerned or weirded out or anything like that.
He was very outwardly jealous, but in the majority of the relationship, there weren't these really big flags that I would have known to look for at that time. Looking back, I definitely have noticed something.
The Wayland High School graduate was preparing to go to Elon University when she was murdered by a former boyfriend on July 3rd, 2011.
Lauren had just turned 18, a bright, musically gifted girl with her whole life in front of her.
All I could think about in April of 2011 was, she has done it. She has finally broken up with this guy who's been causing her a lot of heartache. When that should have been the time when I started worrying, to be honest, because it was over for her and for me, but it wasn't over for him.
Lauren saying to us, I'm just so worried about him. It's weird. It's weird that he's not doing anything. She's like, I know we broke up, but he's not doing anything. We're not seeing him. She's like, I really don't want him to kill himself. I really feel like I should go talk to him because I would feel so bad. And I said to her, yeah, maybe you should. I was like, maybe you should go talk to him. And, looking back, I don't blame myself as a 17-year-old saying that, but I wish that I hadn't.
One of the things I believe is that we can help our youth and our schools and our communities be much more alert to what the warning signs are. Everybody needs to know those signs, to know those at-risk emotions, to know the potential dangers of a breakup, and who's best set up to provide the services to help it not turn into tragedy.
Breakup violence doesn't come from nowhere. There's often signs of controlling behavior, such as jealousy, getting angry if they feel like you're talking to somebody in a way that they deem as, inappropriate or flirtatious, demanding passwords or looking at somebody's phone.
It's that overly protective nature, that defensiveness towards their relationship, the fact that there was times where it was things that should have been open and normal were kept very private.
Are there any signs of jealousy, of controlling behavior, over concern of trying to dictate what the person does or how she does it or who she sees? Are there instances of threats made?
One of the ways I describe it sometimes is, in a healthy relationship, both people's worlds get bigger. So when you're with somebody who makes you feel good, who supports you and sort of cheers you on every way and every aspect of your life, you feel more confident. In an unhealthy relationship, one person's world expands. So the abuser gets to know their friends and family. They continue to live their life in ways that they have before. But the survivor, the person who's being controlled, their world starts to shrink and get smaller and smaller.
But don't forget that there can be, and there often is, no warning signs. We need to fight hard against the stereotypes that people want to rely on, that only certain types of people would commit this crime and only certain types of people would be a victim to this crime.
It would be great if abusers came with ominous music wherever they went, and we could say, oh, there they are. I'm going to stay away from them. My friends will stay away from them.
The reality is that domestic violence cuts across all socioeconomic classes. It cuts across all educational levels.
It's often somebody who seems really likable, who may be a leader in their school or community, who people are friends with. Breakup violence can occur when an abuser feels like they're losing control. They often will escalate their abuse, and so it may manifest in violent ways, even if they hadn't been violent in the past.
What's pretty common is when people see a couple fighting or not getting along, they think, oh, it's just their business, they'll figure it out. I'm not going to get involved. So that's a bystander, someone who sees something, they may or may not know that it's not right, and they don't intervene. An upstander is someone who sees something and chooses a way to respond.
Upstander behavior is to figure out what you can do in a moment where you're becoming concerned, something that will help bring down the harm level. It can be causing a distraction. It can be just raising the awareness of one of the parties involved.
Maybe having more like the confidence and courage to be like, hey, like what you're doing is like a little weird, and like we as your friends like don't really think it's all right.
It's to do the intervening, to not shy away from it, to be the upstander who says, you know what, this doesn't feel right to me. I think that's the best we can ask of our young people when it comes to protecting one another.
When you hear someone's having a breakup, the antenna need to go up. And not that every breakup is going to lead to such horrible outcomes, but the potential's there. That phenomenon by itself ought to get everybody just alert, a little more alert.
I think it's really important for men to open up dialogues with their friends, whether they're the one who's hurting or whether they have a friend who's hurting. And I think it's really important for women to know that it's okay to say no to a situation, a person, anything, and not feel like they're being dramatic or emotional about something.
You know, of course, at one point you might have been the closest person in the world to this person. And so in a lot of ways you might think it's almost my job to help them. It's really not. And you shouldn't go meet that person alone.
Breakups are really hard. By having conversations and talking about breakup skills, I think we can go a long way to ease the deep pain of breakups.
To anybody and everybody who hears this or goes to one of the programs that we support, I just hope it prevents even one more incident.